the way the Trump administration obviously has told the filthy scum who comprise that information not to comply with any order issued by any judge if it is contrary to what the orange bathroom rat wants done. The Trump administration yesterday told a federal judge trying to get answers about whether or not the orange bastard had violated his order by deporting 200 people over the weekend, including those that officials identified as members of a Venezuelan criminal gang. Okay, look, I said yesterday, and I certainly mean it, criminals who are identified, who are positively identified, they're in this country illegal, and they're criminals, fuck yeah. Get rid of them. But the problem with that arises when it must be acknowledged, and it's not really a problem, it's just maybe a delay. When the courts say, look, you can't just pick someone up and throw them out of the country, there is a legal procedure you have to go through. I mean, everybody should know at this point we're a nation of laws, not of men, not of people. And the laws right now are being just totally ignored by the toilet rat. He doesn't give a shit. Trump doesn't care, couldn't care less. And his people, especially this monster Tom Holman, this gruesome-looking fucker, and then you have the guy who, Kash Patel, wait till he gets cranked up, right? OMFG. So anyway, the hearing that was in a federal district court in Washington escalated this so-called conflict between the Trump fucker and the Constitution. And Trump has made it clear, it should be clear to anyone who's paying even a part attention to what's going on. Trump has made a decision, this filthy pig, that the Constitution no longer exists for him. No longer exists for him. Only insofar as his fucking lawyers can use it to twist and change and deny the facts of what's going on. That's all they are interested in. That's it. So, talk about a constitutional crisis? I wouldn't call it that. What I would call it is just an absolute destruction of the Constitution. The Trump administration will have nothing to do with the U.S. Constitution. They're making that very clear. And, of course, the question is, what's going to be the result of that? We've never faced this in the history of this country. But then we've never had a convicted fucking felon criminal with 34 convictions and all kinds of fraud charges and a pathological liar and an ignorant savage like Donald Trump as president either. But here we are. I mean, woulda, shoulda, coulda, bullshit. We are where we are now. So what happens now? Good question, Malloy. In that hearing yesterday, an attorney, and I hate these fuckers, these people who have law degrees, who are actual attorneys, who are members of bar associations, and they are working in direct contravention of the Constitution, in direct contravention of every fucking oath they've ever taken in their crummy goddamn lives. Well, this jerk fuck in the court yesterday refused to answer any questions about those flights to El Salvador. Rather than answer the judge's question, this prick said that the orange sewer rat had broad authority to do anything he wants where it concerns removing immigrants from the U.S. with no due process under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which is bullshit. Somebody put the Alien Enemies Act up online the other day, and I took a look at it, and it says you have to be at war against the country whose people, whose citizens are in this country, and you decide to throw them out or lock them up. So this arguing, which never would have occurred in a federal courtroom prior to this rat goddamn Trump, but that's back and forth arguing in court between the judge, James Boasberg, and one of the Justice Department's fake lawyers, some fucker named Abhishek Kambli. Abhishek Kambli. There you go. The argument left open the possibility of further conflicts down the road. So the judge ordered this thing, Kambli, to certify in writing by noon today, under seal if needed, it doesn't have to be public, that no immigrants were removed after his written order went into effect. Now, that little tidbit of information is going to be crucial as the judge tries to determine whether the Trump administration flouted the judge's authority, the court's authority, the Constitution's authority. Judge, listen, all due respect, I realize I'm just some little voice out here in the mountains of North Georgia, but let me tell you something, Judge Boasberg. Fuck yes, they disobeyed your order. They don't have any respect for you. They don't have any respect for your courtroom, for the Constitution, for the rule of law. Come on. I wish people would stop fucking around with all these little word games. I need to see whether or not you have flouted my authority. Oh, give me a goddamn break. Of course they have. That's what the MO of this group of terrorists that run the country now, that's what their MO is. They don't give a shit about law. Come on. So this legal battle is right now is the central point, the flashpoint, you might say, between federal courts and the representing the Constitution and these slimy little cockroaches who claim to be lawyers who are representing the toilet rat. That's the flashpoint right now, throwing people out of the country. If people deserve to be thrown out of the country, fine, throw them out. But first, they get due process. This is the fucking United States, still, this morning, today. This is not Russia, not yet. I know we're on the track to become a satellite of Vladimir Putin's. But at the moment, we are still a constitutional republic. And that means, okay, you think somebody is a criminal? All right, arrest them, charge them, indict them, try them, use our system. But that's the thing. The Trump fuckers and these slimy cockroaches who claim to be lawyers who represent the sewer rats administration in courtrooms, they have no respect, none, for the law or the Constitution. Not only do they not respect it, in their little criminal worlds, it doesn't exist. The only thing that exists for these little fuckers like this Abhishek Kambli person or this psychotic little bitch Carolyn Leavitt, who's now the spokesperson, or the blonde bimbo from Florida, Pam Bondi, the only thing exists for them, is the word of their Lord Christ God, Jesus, on the cross, off the cross, Lord help us, Easter Sunday morning, Trump. That's it. And earlier, yesterday, prior to this hearing, Trump's enforcer, this gruesome fucker, Tom Homan, so-called border czar, yeah, that's a good term, right? He made a bunch of fuck you kind of remarks on television indicating that the Trump administration is going to continue these deportations no matter what the court says. Fuck the courts. What are you talking about? I'm Tom Homan. I am Donald Trump's enforcer. You think I'm going to pay any attention to you little Weasley bastards in a courtroom? This is where we are. This is where we are. And when the Holman Grim Reaper, whatever the fuck he's weird. When he was on the Fox Sewer yesterday, he said this, quote, "We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming." End quote. Well, that's a nice statement regarding the rule of law in a constitutional republic, which we are no longer. Now, as the Times reported at this hearing yesterday, when it began, the judge there said he did not intend to rule on the merits of whether the Trump administration was correct in deciding to deport immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act. He said that eventually he'll have to decide whether the Trump bastard was right in removing people under that 200-year-old statute, which allows the government discretion to deport non-citizens during wartime, and if there is an invasion of U.S. territory. So it's going to come down to the definition of invasion. How do you define invasion? It's like what Bill Clinton said. It depends on how you interpret the word if, or some shit like that, when he was caught with his thingy where it didn't belong because of people who were trying to bring him down, which they didn't. But anyway, for now, the judge said he was concerned with a much narrower issue. He wanted to understand the timeline of these flights from the United States to El Salvador so that he can determine whether they were in violation of his ruling. Well, in the first place, Judge, let me tell you that regardless of what the timeline might be presented to you as, in fact, the way the timeline really occurred, it doesn't matter. They don't give a shit. And if the timeline does not correspond with your order in a way that you saw fit, they still don't give a shit. Judge, please. I guess you have to say and do these things, right, in order to find some way to issue a contempt citation to finally pit the judicial branch of government against the executive branch, which is not what the judge is doing. That's what these Nazi fuckers are doing who work for the sewer rat. But anyway, the slimy little cockroach who was representing the Trump administration in the courtroom repeatedly refused to say anything about the flights, and he kept citing, ready? National security. We can't tell you what time the flights left, Judge, because of national security. And all this cockroach who is representing the Trump administration did in the judge's courtroom was to just keep repeating Trump's position that his fascist government had done nothing wrong. We didn't violate your order, Judge. Come on, give me a fucking break. We didn't. There's no violation. That's your imagination, or the left-wing media trying to make you think that, or George Soros. Does he contribute to your campaign, Judge? And in my opinion, to make it even worse, before the hearing began, the cockroaches tried to have the hearing canceled. They, I don't know how many of these cockroaches sat down to write this letter. The cockroaches are the so-called attorneys, lawyers, bunch of fucking bums. But they wrote to the judge in late afternoon yesterday to tell him that there was no point in coming to court because they didn't intend to provide him with any information about the flights. So once again, Judge, the message from the cockroaches was go fuck yourself. We don't play in your playpen anymore. And the Times calls it, in an even more astonishing move, the Justice Department, don't laugh, Justice Department, under this psycho bitch Pam Bondi, sent a letter to the Federal Appeals Court that is over Judge Boasberg, asking the appeals court to remove him, throw him out entirely, because the cockroaches cited what they described as, quote, his highly unusual and improper procedures in handling the case, end quote. So if you can't beat them legally, blow them up. Remove them, set fire to their courtroom, send them to detention camps, take away their judgeships. This has been done so many times The template being Adolf Hitler and Hitler in Germany in the 30s. It's been done so many times. So why is it being done again here? We know how this works or doesn't work, and we also know the final outcome. The final outcome of a takeover of fascism is fucking bloody violence that ends with the fascist dictator either blowing his own fucking brains out in some bunker or his corpse being so mutilated by an insanely angry mob that there's nothing left to hang from a lamppost except bloody clothing and a few stumps that used to be legs sticking out of the shoes. So why are we continuing with this? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.